So we're here with Jonathan Freitag, a graduate student at FDU, and today we're going to be asking you a few questions. Start off, do you think the government should have the right to regulate your individual freedoms or liberties?
I do think that the government should have a right to regulate my individual freedoms or liberties, but to an extent. So, if I'm considered an adult, then all activities that adults can do, I should be able to do. So, like for example, if you're considered adult at 13 in the Islamic religion, then you should have every single right that an adult today should have. If that's what the government upholds, if you're considered an adult at 18, like they are in the U.S., then you should have every single right that an adult should hold when you're 40. So age shouldn't matter. It should be once you hit the age, that's when you should be considered an adult. So everything that adults are allowed to do, regardless of their age past then, should apply to when you initially turn or become an adult.
Right. And next question, do you believe the best way to maximize freedom is to maximize freedom of choice? If so, why?
The best way to maximize freedom. So I think that the best way to maximize freedom is freedom of choice. Obviously, with this, it's to an extent too. But I mean, freedom of choice is essentially what America's about. You can pick and choose what you want to be, who you want to be. So I think that's obviously what got us to where we are today. So I think freedom of choice is one of the key factors or is one of the key components in all the beliefs of everything that the USA stands for.
Okay. And next, if you believe in freedom of choice, is it okay for an adolescent to decide whether he or she drinks?
I do not think that it is. What was the word used? Appropriate. As far as adolescents choosing if they're allowed to drink or not, I don't think that they should be allowed to drink. I don't think they should be able to choose if they're allowed to drink. I think that decision should be left up to their parents. And then obviously once they become an adult, so it's 18, you're considered an adult. You can be punishable by every single crime once you become 18. You're no longer considered a juvenile. So up until that point, I personally believe that you should be under your parents' care and supervision, and they should have the final say in what you are and are not allowed to do, such as drink. But once you turn 18, I think that you should be able to have that on right, I think that you should be able to have the right to drink if you decide to, because at that point you are considered an adult.
And next question, the American government recognizes adults at age 18. Is it unjust that these adults aren't allowed to decide if they drink? Does this go against their freedom of choice?
I do think this goes against their freedom of choice. If you're 18, you're considered an adult, and you can go fight wars and go be killed overseas defending your country, and then I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to enjoy a beer or enjoy a drink with a friend or a family or out at parties or whatever it may be. If you're considered an adult, you shouldn't have any restrictions on your freedom of choice, as long as they're provided to everyone else that's older than you. So if you're 18, you should have the same exact freedoms and liberties as someone that's 65.
Okay. And last question today. Does the government have the right to limit the drinking age, and why?
I do think the government has the right to limit the drinking age, but the government also needs to, in my opinion, have the drinking age match the age where you're determined as an adult. That way there's no line as, well, you're an adult, but you're kind of still not really an adult because you're not 21 and you can't drink. So I definitely think that the government does have the right to determine where that line is, but the line should match where you're considered an adult.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course.
We're here with Brian Moody, a graduate student here at FDU.
Hi guys.
I can ask you a couple questions, Brian.
Alright, yeah.
First off, do you think that the government should have the right to regulate your individual freedoms or liberties?
I think that the federal government should not, because federal government is too overbearing and they don't know the individuals and the cultures that are specific to the states, as well as the individual cultures within the states. So I believe the state government should have the right to monitor your freedoms and liberties, but I don't believe that either at the federal level or at the state level they should be regulated. I think that we're intelligent and educated enough to do it ourselves.
Okay. Do you believe that the best way to maximize freedom is to maximize freedom of choice? If so, why?
When it comes to freedom of choice, I believe that people aren't educated enough. I know what I just said in the first question, but freedom of choice, I'm going to choose to do what I want to do, and sometimes it has negative effects to other people, and you don't know what your actions do today are going to affect someone 2 to 3 days from now. So by my choice to drink and then go drive, that's not a choice I make, but I could make that decision. That is something that needs to be regulated.
All right, number 3. If you believe in freedom of choice, is it okay for an adolescent to decide whether he or she drinks?
He or she? No, I believe that's a parent's decision. I'm not going to say, my parents allowed me to have a glass of wine on Sunday dinners. 14 years old, maybe 15, I really couldn't tell you when, but it just became practice, it became standard, and it teaches someone respect and responsibility. In Europe, that's how they do it, and I believe that we should do it, because if you teach people how to handle themselves and handle their alcohol, then they can make the proper choice, and they can make the right choice.
Okay. The American government recognizes adults at age 18. Is it unjust that these adults are not allowed to decide if they drink? Doesn't this go against their freedom of choice?
Unjust? I don't know if that's the proper word. I would say that it's improper and unfair, because if you're going to hand me an M16 or an AR, I'm going to probably want to take a shot of Jameson after I go out and do my business for the country. But I think that if they're not educated enough or smart enough to make the proper decision on how to drink at that age, then I think the decision to regulate it and keep it to 21 is proper. But it's just like teaching kids languages. When you start out young, it's extremely easy. Where if you start out in high school, it's harder for them to pick it up. So the whole thing of Muzzy, I think that's what it was, the big fluffy guy. You could teach a kid language a lot easier as younger. It's much more adaptable. If you teach kids responsibility at a younger age, it's much more adaptable and they respond better to it. That's why you teach them language at a young age. So that's going to be my answer.
Last question. Does the government have the right to limit the drinking age, and why?
They have the right to. Congress has all rights to regulate laws. That's what they're allowed to do. Is it proper and should they be allowed to? No, I think it should go to the state level, like I said before. However, we're United States. All 50 are united together, so we have to follow laws. Although, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the majority of people would prefer to be drinking at younger ages. And the majority of people that want that, I think, want it for the wrong reason. If they did want it for the proper reason, which was, if you start drinking at a younger age, you can handle yourself better. You can handle your alcohol better, and you'll be able to handle how it affects you. And this is one of the reasons why the number of driving while intoxicated accidents in America far exceeds the number of DUIs in Europe, because they learn how to drink and handle their alcohol before they learn how to drive. And I think that is proper, because if you give someone keys to the gold mine, they're going to spend all the gold. But if you teach someone how to earn all the money in the gold mine and how to mine it, they're going to respect it.
All right then, thank you.
You're welcome, Bill.